Gotta kick off the show here.
We're agreeing!
Something cleaned up.
Welcome into another episode of the Mafia Cast. This is another day, one more day closer to the start of the NFL season. It seems like it's forever away. How you doing, Casey? What's going on, man?
Well, we talked pre-show. Sounds like 2 out of 3 members of the Mafia Cast have had a whale of a day. But
Yeah.
we're here. The schedule hasn't been released yet, which is depressing. Very depressing. My golf game was depressing today. But it's another chance to do the podcast and talk football with one of my best friends. So it's a good day.
Hell yeah. Yeah, anytime we get to talk football, it's a good thing. The schedule from, I guess, the rumors I'm hearing should come out next Thursday, I believe. Wednesday or Thursday, I think, is the date I'm hearing.
Saw something like May 15th because I saw, what was it? The Steelers put out a way to like win something. Like it was like a guess the schedule challenge, and they gave up until May 14th to enter. So, I mean, I think that's kind of what the tipping point was, to kind of tell everybody, hey, this is probably happening on the 15th.
Yes. Well, we do have a guest next Thursday. Matt Prino will be joining us, so hopefully the schedule comes out before then, because that's kind of what I'm banking on, because I would love to be able to kind of talk schedule with him, and of course the team, the roster, and what they've done this offseason. Before we get into that, once again, you're listening to the Mafia Cast. We are part of the Buffalo Lowdown.com and powered by Fansided Media, Digital Media Network. Excited to be here. I love doing this. It's unfortunate Mike could not get with us. He might pop in later. We don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, he and my sister have had bad luck with their vehicles the last couple of weeks. And Mike and her were on their way home from work today, and unfortunately, they got about half mile or so from their house, and the truck overheated. So, I mean, I'm hoping Mike can get that worked out and fixed, and they can at least both get to work tomorrow.
Yeah, I think car trouble is one of the most stressful things, I think.
Oh my God. Like
Yeah,
being
especially when you have a job.
so being my age, like being an adult, like now learning, all right, this is everything you had to take care of. Like, no, obviously nobody's gonna take care of anything for you. So now when stuff goes wrong, I kind of sit back and I'm like everybody, it's like, oh, damn it. And like you just try to figure out the best, you can call your dad, you can call your uncle, your mom, whoever, and get whatever advice. But it's still not the same as like you still have to like take care of it, and make the appointments, just make sure everything gets taken care of, and be the last like inspection point for whatever the issue is dealing with before you can deem it resolved. And that's something that like I
Yeah.
had to admit I struggled with, like when I first became an adult, like when I like really started being on my
Like
own and
a year
everything.
or
Like
two
it
ago?
was, yeah. It feels like a year or two ago, trust me. Trust me. But and so like it's taken me a few years to get adjusted to it. Thankfully I have a good wife who really helped me grow up and become an adult.
Yeah, I know a little bit about that. Mine definitely helped me
Yeah,
with that as well.
you got a good
Uh,
one.
let's
It's a. I
jump.
was just gonna say it's a little Mafia Cast notion that Ronnie's wife is the favorite out of the Easton family. So
Yes, this is true. It's true, and I'm totally fine with that. That's why I married her. Let's jump into this. I mean, one of us has got to look good. Um,
true.
I know, really quick, I just kind of want to jump into one quick question here. So today's show is basically going to be surrounded around some questions that we got from Bills Mafia via social media, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or whatever. And there's one question that just popped up actually on Twitter that I kind of wanted to jump into really quick before we move into the other ones that we've got here. Even though I know Casey said pre-show that we've already beat this horse to death, but this is the second time somebody has asked the question. But basically, I'm asking about Khalil Shakir and if the team will continue to feed him with the new look wide receiver core. First of all, I just want to say I don't know that they will continue to feed is the right words because I don't feel like they really fed him last year. I think he was a complementary piece to the whole wide receiver core and on game days. I kind of anticipate actually more of the same. I do think his numbers will go up. I do believe he's going to be targeted. I would say probably at least twice as much, maybe a little bit more. But at the end of the day, I think we talked over 300 vacated targets from all the losses in the wide receiver room and running backs. He's going to get a good portion of those, but I don't know that necessarily feeding him is the way I would put it.
Yeah, I mean, you're right with that. It may have felt like towards the end of the season in the playoffs, I feel like you could probably put up a fight that he was being fed because he was the only wide receiver that was really doing much. I mean, Gabe Davis
Mm-hmm.
was a shell of himself. I mean, what was at one point there was 4 out of 6 games where he had one or less catches. And then you add in this Stephon Diggs debacle at the end of last year where he just completely fell off. And Shakir had, we all know the stats. Shakir had more yards and with less catches on, basically 50 less targets over the last 10 games. Whether you can credit that to, Joe Brady taking over the offense, Stephon Diggs, maybe giving up a little bit on the team, or the ascension of Shakir himself, make like just becoming a better player. Or I mean, obviously, I kind of attribute it to a little mix of everything. There's never really just
Yeah,
one sole reason. I'm thinking like you. I mean, yeah, his numbers are going to go up because there's just vacated targets. I mean, everybody's numbers are going to go up. But I think I was asked a question, or I was with a buddy today, and he said, there's a lot of pressure on Keon Coleman coming in because they're losing Stephon Diggs. They're going to ask him to be number one, and I said I don't really think that's it. I feel like they're going to ask him to kind of be Shakir from last year, and they're going to ask, and they're going to just kind of spread Shakir and Kincaid. And in my opinion, I think Dawson Knox is going to have a halfway decent season, especially in the red zone. He's always been one of Josh's favorite red zone targets. So I feel like the tight ends are kind of where the touchdowns might be going this year. Um, but I think Shakir, he's probably going to eat up a bunch of the yards, and Curtis Samuel, we can't really forget about him. I mean, he was brought in and they paid him a decent amount of money. So
yeah,
they're not going to do that and then not use him. And people are going to say that, oh yeah, that's what they did with Hardy, but they really didn't. It was kind of a low end, high incentive deal with 2 years to kill the deal if it didn't work out after the one, and that's exactly the route they took. But the money that they gave Curtis Samuel, that's real. We want you to be a part of this team and make an impact on this team. There's going to be plays scripted specifically for you to get him the football. So I don't know if Shakir is going to be asked and tasked to, be Stephon Diggs, get 140, 160 targets, 100 catches, 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns. I think it's going to be more so, 900 yards for Shakir, 700 for Kincaid and Samuel, 350, 400 for Knox, maybe 600 for James Cook. I think it's going to be more so a spread the ball out because, as we've said, this wide receiver room isn't as top heavy as it's been in years. It's not, but in our opinion, it might be better 1 through 3 than it's been in the last couple of years.
yeah, yeah. I agree. There's a on Twitter we just had this pop up. So the headline basically for today's show, the title is 2024 Super Bowl or Bust Year for the Bills. 919 Bills fan says on Twitter, it is every year that number 17 is a Bill. Do you agree with that? Do you think that as long as Josh Allen is the starting quarterback for this team, that a successful season is only successful if this team goes to and wins the Super Bowl?
No, because was 2020 or 2019 an unsuccessful season? Josh threw for what was it, 22 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He had 30, whatever it was, 3,200 yards through the air, and the Bills made it to the playoffs a year after everybody said Josh Allen's a bust. Fast
Yeah.
forward to 2021, the Bills are struggling. They're whatever it was, 6-5. And they lose to Tampa Bay in overtime because Dane Jackson doesn't know how to tackle and Jermaine Edmonds doesn't know how to take an angle. And next thing you know, we lose 13 seconds. But I feel like every Bills fan in the world would say we were the better team on that day. We may have lost the game,
Yeah.
but we were the better team on that day. It's not Super Bowl or bust. This team has had so much go right. We had so much go wrong for us.
For 17 years.
I mean, I've said this again. I mean, my entire childhood until 2019 or 2017 happened, I had never seen the Bills in the playoffs with my own two eyes. So to me, I take any little win, any little thing I can get because I understand what it's like to not win anything. So the fact we win a division, yes, it doesn't mean as much as it did after the first two, because now you want more. You're ready to take that next step.
Hmm.
But making it to the divisional round, especially last year after all the injuries, after being 6-6, firing an offensive coordinator, Diggs seemingly quitting on the team, Gabe not really doing anything. We were still the number 2 seed and really had a solid chance to beat KC in the divisional round at home. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's the Bills, in my opinion, just from what I've experienced in my life, I can't ever say Super Bowl or bust. Excuse me, because there's just too many other things that we can win. Yes, people are going to call it consolation prizes, but 31 other teams every single year get a consolation prize. So I'm not going to feel too bad when we make it to the final four of our conference.
Yeah, I'm kind of on board with you there as well. I think that because of the way that this season is, or this off season is kind of playing out, I think there's a lot of fans and media that don't expect this team to be that good this year. And in fact, we even had one of our listeners comment just a few minutes ago, and I'll put it up here. But Michael Velarde says Bills won't make the playoffs this year, and I'm not going to sit here and guarantee anything because the AFC is a very, very tough conference. Um,
Real quick,
but
real
I
quick.
think,
Michael
yeah, I know
Velarde's
you've
just
got something to
trolling.
say.
That's a good friend of mine, and he's just trolling. He's just upset that his team has two quarterbacks and Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. And what's the old adage? You don't have a quarterback if you have two on the team.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's what
you
they
know,
say.
I also think he's still butthurt about the beating that the Bills handed the Steelers in round one this past year. But, Mike, I love you and I digress.
Yeah, I think to kind of get into if this team makes the playoffs, given everything that's happened this offseason with all the turnover, the number of rookies that we're probably going to have to contribute this year, I think if they make the playoffs and win a game, to me, that's a successful season because that sets the stage for future years with a really really good foundation and of talent. And who knows, they after next season, I think the team will be in a better position money wise as far as the salary cap goes, and maybe they can make another Von Miller type splash and get that big pass rusher that they've been honestly kind of missing since McDermott came in. Like yeah, they had Von Miller, they got him for half a season ish, and
Right.
then we haven't had him since then really. So
So, what do you think? So, say, I know hypotheticals here. So, say Von Miller never gets hurt and puts up, because I mean, he was top five in sacks at the point when he got hurt.
mm-hmm.
Say he finishes top five in sacks. Do you think that there's as much of an investment? If Von Miller didn't get hurt at all, if if he doesn't get hurt, do you think there's as much of an investment in the defensive line? that's happened since then. If that doesn't happen,
I think it still happened as far as investment. I think that seems to be really Coach McDermott and Brandon Beane's MO. They want to be dominant up front, and they've been trying year after year after year to add some pieces to that. And unfortunately, I go back to kind of a point that you have made that's a very valid point that if you want a legit big time pass rusher in the draft, you almost have to get them early in that first
yep.
round. Otherwise, you've got a project guy in your hands, and he's maybe he won't develop. That said, let's talk about Javon Solomon. There's a lot of people that are big on him. He had, I think, 15, 16 sacks a season ago. Another thing that we've talked about is sack production in college. Oftentimes it does translate, but he's, I believe, a fifth round pick.
Yep.
Um, I don't know what to expect from him. I really don't. And I don't know what to expect from Von Miller. But I will say this: you look at last season. Yes, Von played, but he was ineffective. He was pretty much non-existent. He took
Yeah.
away, in my opinion, snaps from other guys that probably should have been on the field, and yet the team finished with 54 sacks last year, second highest total in their history, three away from their all-time record, which was set I think in 2013. So uh, I think that the investments are kind of starting to pay off a little bit, in particular with Ed Oliver. I would love to see a full season of Ed Oliver next to Daquan Jones. Please, Jones, don't get injured this year. I want to see these two guys in the middle of that defensive line for a full 17 games because I think they can be absolutely dominant, and that's going to be a key part of to this team's defense in 2024.
So, well, that brings us to this point. What do you think? Like, who do you think? Which team is going to be better in the regular season record wise? Do you think 23? We went 11-6. We were 6-6. Started hot, got cold, got colder, and then we're scorching hot. We were a hot knife on an oven hot. So, like, do you expect another 11-6 season, or are you up in the clouds like Mike is, damned determined to will us to? I mean, he does kind of have the stats to back it up every other year.
Mm-hmm.
The Bills have won 13 years, like out of the last, I think it's the last 4 or 5. So, are you more on 11-6 towards 11-6 or 13-4?
I'm going to go in between 12 and 5. Here's the thing I think this team can be more consistent with this group, and a lot of that is because of Joe Brady. We're going to get a season of him of his offense as opposed to him calling Ken Dorsey's offense last year. I think there were some little things here and there he was able to probably implement that's more of his style. But now he's got a full off season. He's got a bunch of new toys to play with, and I think he's going to find ways to use them. And I think that is going to be that's kind of been the one thing I feel like has been missing from this Bills offense for a while actually is consistency. Even with Dayball, there were times when that offense was just on fire, but then they weren't at other times.
Yes.
And I don't know, I don't have an explanation for that. Similarly with the defense, though, too, where they're typically pretty good in the regular season and then they disappear late. I think some of that can be attributed to injuries, but I'll kind of
Last
throw it
year
back
for
to you,
sure.
though. Yeah, I'll kind of throw it back to you. Um, At what point do we maybe say, and this kind of goes to one of the questions here about Sean McDermott being on the hot seat this year, or if his seat's warming up, at what point do we start looking at, okay, what's been the common denominator over the last 4 or 5 years, and why does this team start hot, get cold, finish hot, lose in the playoffs? The one common denominator is the coaching. The players change for the most part. The core guys are still there until now. Outside of Allen, we're going to have a completely different team. So to answer the question point blank, as far as his whether or not his seat is going to be heating up this year, I think if they don't make the playoffs and they start to falter out of the gate, yeah, I think it will heat up.
I mean, I talked about this way months and months ago to where, okay, we've gotten rid of Ken Dorsey. We now have Bobby Babich as DC. Like, I have a feeling McDermott it might be like kind of like a 50-50 split to where who's calling plays to where Babbage might be calling it and McDermott like if he's like no he's like my gut is telling me here like it's gonna like the call's gonna get cleared through McDermott, but like you said, we've gotten rid of Stephon Diggs, we've gotten rid of Gabe Davis, we've gotten rid of Mitch Morse, Poyer, Hyde, White, Tremaine, who was we can't forget another one of the building blocks. I think this
Mm-hmm.
year it's going to be big on okay. How does I think it's going to be more so falter and it's the offense's fault. I think that's going to buy McDermott a little bit more leeway. But if it's the defense's fault, okay, McDermott, we cleared house. Basically, we gave you this is the defense you're building again, and say they take a step back from what they were last year. Yeah, I can fully see. I mean, not just Bills Mafia calling for his head, but being like, all right, man, what's going on? He's like, now this is whatever 5 years in a row. The defense has faltered. We can't blame the pieces that are there. We can't blame the same old thing. Those pieces aren't there. So now they've erased all variables to where now is it McDermott or do we have to blow this entire thing up? So
I sure hope not.
well, I think that's what they did this year. They blew it up this year. We have 10 picks going into 2025, including compensatory picks next year. We're going to have a boatload of cap space. Boatload is perspective for Bills Mafia because we're used to being over the cap. So the fact that we're
The
already
last couple of
14
years.
under the cap, like at
Yeah.
this point in time, that's to us, that's a boatload of money before having to do any restructures. Um, so
Yeah.
I think they're
Yeah.
going to this to where if this season blows up, I could see McDermott, being let go because he's the only variable left outside of Josh. And you think they're going to get rid of Josh before McDermott? There's not a snowball's chance in hell that they do that.
Yeah. Not a chance. Yeah.
Um, because Bean even said it himself. If I get rid of Josh, that means I'm gone too. So it doesn't make sense to do that. So I think they're setting themselves up to where this is the make or break year for McDermott. Because if it goes wrong, we have all these assets to use in the offseason for the next coach to come and be like, now build the team that you think Josh Allen needs to go out and win the Super Bowl.
What do I think he needs?
No, that's what they're going to be able to. They're going to be able to hand the new coach all these assets,
Oh,
the
gotcha.
draft picks, all this cap space, and be like, now
Yeah.
you go build the team that you think Josh Allen needs. Don't go with McDermott. Don't go with what's just here.
Yeah. And see, that very reasoning right there for me is why I it's hard because, and I've said this before, if Sean McDermott gets fired, he's a big part of the reason why some of these free agents come here. He's a big part of the reason why some of these guys are taking pay cuts. He's a big reason why the culture is what it is. You
Can
take
I
him out of the equation, we don't know what we're going to get. And if they blow up the team and want to rebuild it in their way, in their image, you're looking at 2, 3, 4 more seasons of wasted prime Allen.
can I ask though? So the whole culture thing. What free agents really has McDermott brought in that's made a huge difference?
Well, the
I
safeties
mean,
for starters.
so yes, but I mean that was
He this team
17.
hasn't been in a position to bring in high dollar free agents
Correct.
outside of Von
Correct.
Miller. So that's
Correct.
been part of it, right? But
Correct.
guys like Miller, guys like Knox, guys like Milano taking pay cuts, that is to me part of that culture.
Agreed. I agree with that. But we also don't know if there's enough. I mean, there's plenty of players coaches out there. I mean, you don't know if the next coach won't be even better towards the players. And we don't know if this loyalty is to McDermott or if it's to Bean, because Bean is the one that's able to make these promises to, hey, you lose this money now, I'll pay it to you next year. And that's a
Yeah,
guaranteed
but
promise.
if McDermott's fired or gone, then Bean's gone too. So
I don't see I
I,
but that's not the case a lot of times. Like a team has to be really, really bad for a really long time for a GM and a coach to be fired in the same year. Usually it's because the trajectory the Bills are on, it's blow it up, get rid of all the star players, get rid of all the aging players. That's step one. Like after you get rid of the coordinators. So, okay, the players is step two. Step three is get rid of the coach. And then step four is get rid of GM. And I think Brandon Beane has proved himself more as a GM than I'd say McDermott has
I
proved
agree.
himself as a coach.
I would agree, but do you not think that Bean would follow McDermott though?
I
I think he
don't.
would personally.
No,
I
I
think he
don't.
would.
I don't. Because there's also no guarantee that the team that McDermott would end up coaching for had a GM, and he doesn't have a GM.
Yeah, more than likely they wouldn't, because most teams that fire their head coach, the GM follows because the team's just not good. And so,
Mm.
but it'll be an interesting to see. Mike is in the comments here, of course, naturally, 13 wins. Um, there's some other comments here that I want to get to, but before we do that, let's hear from our sponsors.
Hey, it's John from Game On Sports Memorabilia. Check out our huge selection of unopened wax boxes of Pokemon cards. You have to see our selection of over 2 million sports cards in stock, plus hard to find card supplies. And if you have anything to sell, bring it in. We can help you determine the true value before you sell it. We pay fair market value every day. It's Game On Sports Memorabilia, 2670 Dewey Avenue in Greece. Check out our podcast for news and information on the card and collectible universe. Also, check out our Facebook page.
For more, call 481-2153. That's 481-2153.
And I just want to also really quick piggyback on that. If you're listening on YouTube, Facebook, please like, follow, subscribe. We appreciate it. And let's kind of get into some of these comments here. Again, Mike is still commenting. He said it's going to be a good year. I do think it's going to be a good year. Like I said, I would go with 12 wins. One of these comments here that I wanted to get to is this one here specifically from John Robert. I think Dwayne Carter can play great depth and he can learn from Ed and Daquan Jones. I for me personally, I am super excited about what Dwayne Carter is going to bring to this
Yes.
team. I feel like just from what I've read and from some of the things that I've seen, to me, he's a Kyle Williams 2.0 with a little bit more physical talent.
Dude, if we can get another Kyle Williams, like speaking of my childhood, like that is just reborn. And my two favorite picks from this entire draft like came in the trenches. It was Dwayne Carter and Cedric Van Pran. I think both of them. I think Van Pran Granger has a better chance to start this year than Dwayne Carter because of Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones. I mean, we all
100%.
know how good Daquan Jones was before he tore his pec last year when he was playing at an all-pro level. He was actually getting the
Yeah.
quarterback, and that's the one thing that in his career he was not known for. So the fact that he was adding that to his arsenal was just a huge, huge bump for this team in the defensive line across the board. But Van Pran Granger, like I think it the starting job is his to win, and and oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. Uh, oh, who's our new starting center? Oh my gosh, our left guard
McGovern.
from last year, McGovern. I kept wanting to say McDermott.
Connor
uh,
McGovern.
and let's talk about short arms. Madge McDermott in the trenches. Oh my God! But with that wrestling background, he might be able to get a couple of the big boys to the ground. Um, but I think Van Pran Granger, like I think he has a chance to steal that, and because all he has to do is prove that the offensive line is better with him at center and McGovern at his natural position at guard than the team is with McGovern out of position. I know he's played center for right around 100 snaps in his whole entire football career, so at least he has something. But
Hmm.
I I like David Edwards more just as he's the perfect backup. He's just not somebody who I want starting. It's like Ike Bucker that we had a few years ago.
Yeah.
He was the exact player that I want that can play both guard positions, and Bucker could even play center. But Edwards can, he's shown he can play both guards. He's even stepped in a tackle when needed. He's our extra sixth lineman when we go into super heavy package. I would love to rather see McGovern at left guard and Van Pran Granger at center, but Dwayne Carter, oh my God, I just think he's going to be an absolute menace.
I do
Menace.
too.
And the fact that he
Going,
also took number 90, I think that shuts the door on Shaq Lawson coming back to the Bills.
oh yeah,
Just a
I
just a little
think so.
tidbit.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Going back to the Cedric Van Pran Granger comments, I wrote not too long earlier this week. I put out my prediction on the starting offense and defense, but I did put Van Pran as the starting center and move McGovern back to guard because I'm with you. I think that's a position that if a rookie is more likely to come in and start. Center is one of those positions. I think they can do that. Uh, so, and I'm with you. David Edwards played well last year. He was actually the highest per Pro Football Focus grade along the Bills' offensive line last year. But he also only had, I think, like 150 or so total snaps. Can
And
he
again,
place it?
how many of those came
Yeah,
out like outside the tackle?
right. There was a good portion of those. So I I would like to see it only, and part of it also being the fact that he's young. He's a rookie, obviously. So if he can go in there and he can start, we're set at that position for a while. We don't have to worry about that position for a while. Then you've got the right guard spot with Osiris Torrance locked up for a while. You've got Spencer Brown, who's still like that whole line suddenly becomes very young, with the exception of Deion Dawkins, who I think is 29,
I'd
maybe
say who's
30.
not even 30 yet. So the fact that he's the
Yeah,
old guy, that's a great
right.
reset of the offensive line that all of the Mafia has been calling for what, 3 years now. I just
Yeah.
don't think we all expected it to come at the expense of Morse.
Yeah, I think some people were kind of surprised by that a little bit. I'm gonna say that I wasn't necessarily calling for it or anything, but there were times in games when I felt like Morris was not that good. Like he struggled with consistencies as well. And in fact, across the whole line, yes, they were really really good last year, but there were moments in games, especially up against the bigger, uh, stronger pass rush teams, that they struggled still.
For
And
sure.
and I think part of that was especially up the middle, which is why you saw Allen running outside a lot. So hopefully maybe Granger can come in, be rock solid. Even as a rookie, though, there's going to be some learning curve and some struggles there. Anyways, let's get to some of these other questions here. So we kind of touched on the McDermott hot seat, Super Bowl or bust. We kind of talked about that a little bit. This one here is something I've been kind of thinking about for a while now. The 2024 defensive woes. It's interesting that word woes because I don't see that. I see a lot of national media and fans saying we lost Poyer, we lost Hyde. We think we've lost Hyde. He hasn't said for sure if he's coming back yet or not. He might still. We lost White. We lost Leonard Floyd. But here's what I'll say: Leonard Floyd was non-existent down the stretch. The last, what was it, 5 games, 0 sacks. Poyd and Hyde, love them to death. Same tandem that they've been in years past, not even remotely. Tre'Davious White, we've pretty much been without him for 2 seasons now. Yes, he got to sprinkled in for about 5 or 6 games, but we've pretty much been without him. To me, they're big names, but to me, I don't see that much of a turnover as far as the talent goes. And again, I hate to say that about Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer because they've been fantastic and they've meant a ton to this team in years past and the community and the stuff that they do. And a little plug here, really quick, too, for Micah Hyde. He is putting on his charity softball game, so go watch it, go check it out, go be a part of that. I wish I could, but all the way over here in Idaho, it's not going to happen. Maybe I can get Hyde to put one on here in Boise for me. That'd be great.
You need to get in contact with your boy Shakir.
Working on that. We're working on that. But the team does have a rookie mini camp starts tomorrow, I believe. Yeah, tomorrow's the 10th. Yeah, so it starts tomorrow. OTAs are next week, so the guys are going to be busy for a little bit. But yeah, back to the defensive woes. That's kind of where I see it. Almost an addition by subtraction. Like you should take out the big names. You plug in some new guys like Cole Bishop. I think Cole Bishop. That's another one on the defensive side that I think as a rookie is going to take a starting spot, and I think he takes it from Mike Edwards. But that's
Really?
that's kind of my thought on the defensive side. Yeah, yeah,
So you think it's going to be Cole Bishop and Taylor Rapp starting?
I do.
See, and
Yeah, and
I think it's going to be Mike Edwards and Cole Bishop, and I think they're going to be, I think they're going to use Taylor Rapp kind of how they did last year. Now I know they extended him, but the extension they gave him is really just a 1 year deal,
yeah,
2 years that they can pick up if he steps up and plays well. Now, I don't think that Taylor Rapp played as to his full potential last year. He got nicked up at times. He didn't get obviously a full playing slate with Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. He was
hmm
bouncing in and out, but he was the perfect third safety for this team, and I think that's the exact role that he needs. And that's kind of the money that they gave him. If you really break down the contract and look at what's guaranteed and the incentives that he can earn up to in that extension, I think they're going to use him just like they did last year. Bring him down into the box. He's going to be, instead of bringing the third linebacker in when they take Taryn off the field, I think they'll just bring Taylor Rapp in because it still gives a little bit more of a pass coverage sense than it does bringing in somebody like a third linebacker. So I would rather see Rapp in a limited role to where he's out there purposefully to make an impact. He's like the perfect second down player, second or third down player. Especially if we ended up wanting to play dime, but with our two linebackers, starting linebackers, I don't ever see us taking either of them off the field.
yeah,
But I think Cole Bishop's going to earn. I think that's Jordan Poyer Jr. And I think they're just going to kind of let Mike Edwards sit in center field and just go grab footballs. Basically delegate him to the Micah Hyde role to what he was a few years ago, to where it was you did see Poyer. I mean, I know they could switch, they could bounce high and low, Poyer and Hyde, but I think that they're going to you could see towards the end of it, they kind of had Hyde playing the deep ball safety and Poyer playing more in the box, and I think that's kind of
yeah.
going to be the way they go now.
So John Robert here says Rep had a winning interception in the playoffs. Yeah, here's a big reason why I think it could be Rap and Cole Bishop is because kind of what you were just saying. What they were asking him to do was not your traditional safety position responsibilities. So if you actually put him in his actual role as a safety, I do think he could be better. And he does bring better tackling skills, as you just mentioned, than what Mike Edwards does. Uh, if you looked at, I think, Pro Football Focus, I was checking out their grades the other day, and Mike Edwards' tackling grade, well, his overall grade was terrible, but his tackle grade was terrible too. And that was one area where Rap actually was pretty good. I think he earned something in the 70s. So I think if you put him in more of a traditional safety role, maybe down closer to the box, like you were saying though, and let Bishop play the back end and use that height and that size that he has to track down balls, to me that's the winning combination. That all starts next week though. We'll start to see what these guys do on the field a little bit. I mean, obviously they're limited in the practice setting as far as OTAs and whatnot, but I'm excited and looking forward to seeing them get back out there.
Dude, I feel like a crackhead. I'm just itching for football. I've even
I
been
know.
watching like the UFL. If there's a Buffalo like highlight reel that comes across my phone, I'm sitting there and I'm like glued to it. Lauren, my wife's like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, "Oh, you know, stuff." Like I just can't
Stuff, yeah.
I can't get enough anything and everything.
Hey,
Actually,
I'm
tonight
telling you,
I'm
you
probably
need
gonna
to
watch the new Embedded.
you need to go on YouTube and find some of those old games, like especially for you, because the only football you remember was the drought. Go back to the 80s and 90s and watch those games. I started doing that, and I started it with 1986 because that's Jim Kelly's first year with Buffalo, and I've just been watching them. And there's a whole bunch of games out there. That '86 season, there was 10 of them, and I don't know how many of the playoff games, but Buffalo didn't make the playoffs in '86. But
Well,
yeah, that it's super cool even for me.
if I just randomly call you one day and it's because I'm crying, it's because of you. And I watched all four of those Super Bowls. And I'm like, God damn it, Ronnie, why'd you do this to me?
You know, it's funny because I watched those games, and I know the 1986 Buffalo didn't win a lot of games, but I don't know which ones they lost and which ones they won. So when I'm sitting here watching them, I get into it like, yeah, they scored. Let's go, Bills. And it's like 40 years ago, 35, 40 years ago, but still getting into it like it's happening live, and I love it. It's a lot of fun. One more thing I wanted to jump into. There's one more question here, and the question being, how many touchdowns for Allen? We're gonna go with combined touchdowns.
Yes, we are.
Um, I'll let you start. What do you think?
I don't think he has as many rushing touchdowns as last year. Let me just go out and say that. Last year was an anomaly. I don't think this is the year that he becomes the Bills' leading touchdown rusher. I don't think this is the year that he becomes the number two in quarterback rushing touchdowns. I think he will get both of those stats. I just don't think it'll. Basically, he has to rush for as many touchdowns this year as he did last year, and that's just I have a hard time seeing that happen 2 years in a row and them not giving Ray Davis or James Cook more of those touches inside the 10. Um, total, I mean, this year he had 51 total touchdowns. I would say he gets, so we'll put the over under right at 50. We'll do an over under. I'm going to say
Eh,
the
I let's.
the under at 49.
I would put the over under at 40 because he's got 4 straight years of doing that. Does
40
he make
total
it a fifth
touchdowns?
year?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah, because he didn't even throw for 30 touchdowns this year, and I think he does throw for 30 this year. So
Think
that's
so?
that minimum.
I'm actually inclined
A
to go less
minimum
than 40
30.
this time.
Really, total
Yeah.
touchdowns under 40. Interesting.
Yeah. Total. And the reason being, because we kind of talked about this last week a little bit, um, the team, there was an obvious effort last year uh, to increase their time of possession, and they used the running game to do that. That slows the game down. Yes, Allen had just as many attempts, but I don't think he's going to have the same rushing numbers that we've seen in the past. And I that those rushing numbers is a huge reason why he's gone over 40 touchdowns for 4 years in a row. I don't think he does that this year. I think that they still utilize him in the run game because obviously Dorsey or not Dorsey, sorry, Brady did when he came on a lot of called runs and things like that. But when it's down close, I think we're going to see more of Ray Davis in that spot inside the five. So and plus you've got all these, you know, 8 foot receivers on this squad now. That I mean I don't know. I think his passing touchdowns go up, but I think the rushing numbers come down, and I think altogether he's just under 40.
Well, I'll say that puts him like just about right at 40 because it was like
Close,
26
yeah.
and whatever it was. So that puts him, so say it's 30 and 10, 30 and 8, because if he gets 10 rushing touchdowns, that's a decrease from last year. So
That's true. It is.
I could and I see him getting no less than really 8 rushing touchdowns because they seem to come in bunches. I mean, last year. I mean, I think there was 9 straight games, and my dumbass never put it in a parlay once that he was going to get a rushing touchdown because I was always like, nope, this is going to be the week he doesn't do it, and here he goes again. He ran for 2. How many
Yeah.
times last year did we see that he threw for 1 touchdown, ran for 2 on a 2 yard, power to the left or the right or straight up the gut jumping over the line? Um, I agree, like you. I think his passing touchdowns go up and his rushing touchdowns go down, but they still are going to equal 40. So I'll say the over on 40.
You're gonna go over, I'll say under. And no, Mike, it's not a bet. I already made my bet on this year,
Hold
so
on. No, this bet can be, since he decided not to show up today because I have car troubles. He gets the pie no matter who loses.
he gets a
Since
he gets a pie
he
just for having car problems.
since he tried to bring me into his bet, bringing him into our bet.
You know, we were there's let me go back here. So Mike, he says 42 touchdowns for Josh Allen. John Roberts, he commented when it's not coming up. Here we well, Try this again. There it is. James Cook, Ray Davis will take stress off from him. I do agree with John, and that's why I think the rushing touchdowns come down this year for him. There's one other thing in here that I wanted to talk about really quick, and that's something that John said again. John's a regular here. Thank you. We love you, John. We appreciate your always being in here. He says, FYI, Josh Allen worked on the construction site. So for those of you who may not be aware, he was at the pit, as it's become known as. And the only reason why I bring it up is because I've been seeing some of the stuff on Twitter about some fans are butthurt that they're not seeing videos of him and Keon Coleman working out together and throwing passes and lifting weights and all that other stuff that we get from some of the other players. I don't care. I think it's silly that people are worried about that. If you don't think these guys aren't working their butts off behind the scenes, you're crazy. I don't need to see it to know that.
It would be like, obviously, you and our listeners know I'm a big golfer. It would be like going out and practicing in my backyard and sending it to my friends every time I did it and being like, oh, look at me, I'm chipping in the backyard. Like, look how much better I'm getting. Like, I'm glad you're doing it. Like, good for you, man. But, like, I don't need to see that. Like, you don't see Mahomes and Kelsey out there right now at 7:45 at night practicing running routes. Like, you don't see that coming out on social media. Now I understand like our social media is Bill centric, but like plenty of Chiefs stuff comes across my timeline. I don't know about
same.
you, but like I don't see them working together. I don't see JJ McCarthy and Justin Jefferson working out together right now. Now, yes, Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, and Keenan Allen, yes, they're working together, but that's also because the Bears have known for the last 6 months that they're going to get Caleb Williams number one. And okay, they're doing everything physically possible for this to not go wrong. So,
Yeah.
but it's a case by case basis. I'm like you. I don't worry about it
Well,
too much because they're working out.
yeah.
It's just people
Mhm.
looking for something else to complain about.
Yeah. And I also think it's a lot of that has to do with the team's social media and marketing and PR. Like, this is the direction they want to go. They want to show these guys out in the community. They show Keon Coleman out selling burgers or chicken or whatever it was. To me, for me personally, that's more fun. Seeing these guys
Right.
be human and being out there in the community and helping uplift spirits and morale of construction workers and whatever
Right.
else. I don't need to see them lifting weights. I can't lift weights. I don't need somebody else to show me that I can't and how much stronger they are than me. I don't need that.
Right. Like just like imagine if you were that construction worker and all of a sudden, you're just sitting there. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I know you've done hard labor, but like I've done construction and it's like, it sucks. You're out there, you're busting your butt, you're sweating, you're wiping your eyebrows every 5 minutes and, you look up to get a drink of water and, oh no, who's this tall drink of water walking at you? And oh my God, it's Josh Allen. Like
Yeah.
that, that makes their day. Like
Yep.
he's going out to show his appreciation. Hey, I see how hard you guys are working to basically build Josh Allen his brand new home. Like that, like they're building this stadium for Josh Allen. I don't know if we have a star quarterback like Josh Allen if this stadium gets built. I'll be completely 100% honest. So I like he's going out there, like you said, making people's day, enjoying the community, being a part of the community that goes out and
Yeah.
supports him 365 days a year, would literally cut off their left leg just to be able to shake his hand. So the fact that he's taking time out of his day, he doesn't even live in Buffalo in the off season. So the fact that he came back to Buffalo and he's going there just to say hi to construction guys, like that means a lot more than seeing him throw a ball at a target at this point in the season.
Yeah. 100% agree. We're going to get on up out of here. We'll be back on Monday. I have no idea what we're going to talk about. This is actually kind of fun. Just talking about some of the random questions from Bills Mafia. So Hit us up on our Facebook page over at Mafia Cast, or on Twitter. You can catch me or Casey or Mike on our Twitter pages. Ask us some questions. We'll address them on the show. But this was a lot of fun. I think we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna get on up out of here, and we'll see you all on Monday. Don't forget, next Thursday, Matt Perino will be joining us. I'm pretty excited about that. But we'll see you all next week. Go Bills!
Go Bills. Tell your friends.